Every morning at exactly 8, an old brass bell rang above the door of a tiny watch repair shop on Oak Street. The sign outside read, Miller Watch Repair, since 1978. Inside, 72-year-old Henry Miller sat quietly behind a wooden workbench. Tiny screwdrivers, old pocket watches, antique clocks filled every shelf. People said Henry could repair any watch ever made, but there was one watch he had never been able to fix. It lay inside a small velvet box beneath his workbench. For 21 years, he had opened the box every evening, looked at the broken watch, then quietly closed it again. One rainy Thursday afternoon, the shop door opened. A young woman, around 30 years old, walked inside carrying a soaked leather bag. She looked exhausted. "Excuse me, can you repair this?" She placed an old silver pocket watch on the counter. Henry picked it up. The moment his fingers touched it, his face turned pale. He recognized the tiny scratch near the crown, and the initials engraved on the back, E.M. His hands began to tremble, because 25 years earlier, he had engraved those exact initials himself. Henry looked up. "Where did you get this watch?" The young woman smiled sadly. "It belonged to my father. He passed away last month. It was the only thing he never let go of." Henry swallowed hard. "What was your father's name?" "Ethan Morgan." Henry froze. The room suddenly felt silent. Even the ticking clocks seemed to stop. Without another word, Henry carefully opened the back cover of the watch. Inside, hidden beneath the movement, was something no ordinary repairman would ever notice. Tiny folded piece of paper, exactly where Henry himself had hidden it. 25 years ago. The young woman looked confused. "What's that?" Henry slowly unfolded the faded note. His eyes filled with tears. Only 5 words were written on it. "If found, forgive me, Dad." The paper slipped from Henry's fingers. The young woman whispered, "Do you know what it means?" Henry closed his eyes. "I was the one. Who hid that message?" The young woman stared at him. "You knew my father?" Henry nodded slowly. "I knew him. Better than anyone." Before she could ask another question, an elderly customer standing quietly in the corner suddenly dropped his cane. He had overheard everything. Looking directly at Henry, he whispered, "You never told her that Ethan was your son." The young woman's face turned white. She looked from the old man to Henry, unable to believe what she had just heard. The shop fell completely silent. The young woman stared at Henry. Her lips trembled. What did he just say? Henry slowly removed his glasses. For years, he had imagined this moment. But now that it had arrived, he didn't know where to begin. "My name is Henry Miller. Ethan was my son." The young woman's eyes filled with tears. "My father told me. His parents died before I was born." Henry lowered his head. "No. He wanted to protect you from the truth." The elderly customer quietly sat down. "My name is Walter. I worked with Henry for nearly 40 years. I know the whole story." The young woman looked at him. "Please, tell me." Walter nodded sadly. 25 years ago, Ethan wanted to become a wildlife photographer. He dreamed of traveling the world. But Henry wanted him to take over this watch shop. They argued for months. Neither one would listen. One stormy evening, the argument became worse than ever. Ethan packed a small suitcase. Before leaving, he placed his silver pocket watch on the workbench. "Dad, I don't want to spend my life repairing time. I want to spend it living." Henry answered in anger. "If you walk out that door, don't come back." The words echoed in his mind every day afterward. Ethan quietly picked up his watch, walked out, and never returned. Henry wiped away a tear. The next morning, I wanted to apologize, but he was already gone. I searched for years. I wrote letters. I called everyone I knew. There was never an answer. The young woman whispered, "My father never hated you." Henry looked surprised. "How do you know?" She slowly opened her leather bag. Inside was an old journal. It belonged to him. He wrote in it almost every night. She carefully turned the pages, then stopped. "My favorite entry was written on my 10th birthday." She began reading. Emily asked why she doesn't have a grandfather. I couldn't answer. "The truth is, every birthday I almost drive back home. But I'm afraid Dad still remembers my last words. Maybe one day we'll both be brave enough to forgive each other." Henry covered his face. For 25 years, both father and son had wanted the same thing. Neither had known the other felt exactly the same. Emily reached across the table. "My father never stopped loving you," Henry whispered. "I never stopped waiting." Just then, Emily removed something else from the bag. A small wooden box. "My father told me, if I ever found you, I had to give you this." Henry carefully opened it. Inside was another pocket watch. Unlike the first one, this one still worked perfectly. Tick, tick, tick. Hidden beneath it was a faded photograph. Henry picked it up. His heart nearly stopped. The picture showed Ethan standing beside a smiling woman holding a newborn baby. On the back, someone had written, "Dad, meet your granddaughter. Her name is Emily." A tear fell onto the photograph. Henry smiled through his tears. "I missed her first smile, her first steps, her birthdays." Emily gently held his hand. "You don't have to miss the rest." Before Henry could answer, the old shop telephone suddenly rang. Walter answered it. Few seconds later, his face turned pale. He slowly turned toward Henry. "It's the hospital." Henry stood up immediately. "The hospital?" Walter nodded. "They found something in Ethan's personal belongings. Something they believe belongs to you." Henry's hands began to shake. Because Ethan had passed away only 3 weeks earlier, how could there still be something no one had discovered? Henry's heart pounded. "The hospital?" Walter nodded. "The nurse said they found a safety deposit key among Ethan's belongings. They believe it belongs to you." Without wasting another second, Henry and Emily drove to the hospital. The nurse handed Henry a small envelope. Inside was an old brass key. Attached to it was a faded tag. Box 117. Along with a short handwritten note. "Dad, if you're reading this, then I finally found my way home." Henry closed his eyes. For years, he had dreamed of hearing those words. Now, they had arrived too late. Or so he thought. The next morning, Henry and Emily visited the town bank. An elderly manager greeted them. "I've been waiting for someone to claim this." He led them into the vault. After turning the key, a small metal box slid forward. Henry carefully opened it. Inside, there was no money, no jewelry, only memories. A stack of unopened letters, a worn leather camera, tiny pair of baby shoes, and an old cassette recorder. Across the top, a label read, "For Dad." Henry pressed the play button. The tape crackled. Then Ethan's voice filled the silent room. Older, softer, but unmistakable. "Hi, Dad. If you're listening to this, it means I ran out of time." Henry's hands began to shake. "I wanted to come home so many times, but every year. I thought maybe you'd be happier without me." Emily quietly wiped away tears. The recording continued. "Then I became a father. The day Emily was born, I finally understood what you felt. No parent ever stops loving their child. I should have come home." There was a long silence. Then Ethan laughed softly. "Remember the broken watch? You always said, a good watch can be repaired, as long as someone is willing to spend the time. I guess families are the same." Henry could no longer hold back his tears. Beneath the recorder, Henry found one final envelope. Inside was a legal document. Ethan had left his wildlife photography collection to Henry and Emily. Thousands of photographs from around the world. On the last page, one sentence was written by hand. "Dad, please hang my favorite picture inside your watch shop, so I'll always be working beside you." A week later, the tiny watch repair shop reopened, but it looked different. Above the workbench, where the wall had been empty for years, hung Ethan's favorite photograph. It showed a sunrise over a quiet lake. At the bottom of the frame, a small plaque read, "Time can be lost. Love never is." Customers often stopped to admire it. Many asked who had taken the picture. Henry always smiled proudly. "My son." Emily visited the shop every Saturday. She learned how to repair watches, not because she wanted to take over the business, but because every ticking watch reminded her that every second with family is precious. One afternoon, a little boy walked into the shop holding a broken toy watch. "I'm sorry, I don't have any money." Henry smiled warmly. he repaired it anyway. When the boy thanked him, Henry gently handed him the watch and said, "Take care of your time. It's the one thing you can never earn back." Emily smiled. Those were the exact words Ethan had once heard as a child. Now, they were being passed on again. Years later, when Henry finally retired, he didn't close the shop. He handed the keys to Emily. Above the entrance, she placed a new wooden sign. Miller and Morgan Watchmakers, 2 family names, finally together. Every evening before closing, Emily wound the old pocket watch that had once belonged to her father. Its hands, which had been frozen for 25 years, now moved perfectly. Tick, tick, tick. Because sometimes it isn't the watch that needs repairing, it's the heart. And when forgiveness finally arrives, even lost time finds its way home.